Well, good morning. We're coming to you live from the Pearl of Africa Hotel here in Nakasero, and we're joining the National Social Security Fund as they mark the 6th annual members meeting. So we're a bit curious about what's going to happen today. I'm looking at what Richard Biarugaba, the Managing Director for NSSF, wrote, and he says the financial year 2017-2018 has been fantastic for the fund. We want to know what fantastic means when we translate it to the rest of us individuals. I'm standing here with the MD of Barclays Bank Uganda, Mr. Rakesh. It's good to have you.
Thank you very much.
What does this mean to you, this annual meeting? Why do you think it's important that we have it?
I think it's a great platform for those enterprises and companies whose employees are contributing to the NSSF, for them to come together and understand what direction is the fund taking, how are they performing, what are the key financial measures that they are looking at, and how successful are they in what they promise to their investors. It's a very important move because it allows a lot of transparency to be demonstrated and for people to understand how they can gain more from NSSF. And I think it's a great awareness building exercise as well.
Are you optimistic about the interest rate for this year? What are your projections?
Well, from what we've seen is that the Bank of Uganda has maintained a very, very stable interest rate regime. The CBR, as we use as a reference rate, has been at 9% for more than 3-4 months in a row now. So therefore, we see a lot of stability emerging, and that's what is required by businesses in the country to see a stable interest rate regime.
Okay. What do you think will be the interest rate? Because I know they're going to announce it today.
Yeah. Well, my expectation is that the inflation rates are within the target range that the central bank has set itself as a target, and therefore I do not see any change in the interest rate at this point in time, if at all, because the inflation rates are slightly below what the target rate for the central bank is. We could perhaps expect a rate cut as well.
Well, we have a lot of people who are still not saving with NSSF. What would you say to them?
But I think it's a great opportunity, and people should not miss out on this particular opportunity to save, because as we see in many parts of Africa, the rate of savings is very low. And when you have a program like this where an institution offers you a wonderful return on an annual basis, then I don't think anyone should miss out on this opportunity. People should take advantage of this.
Where would you like to see NSSF start to invest a bit more?
Well, obviously, they have a very well diversified portfolio, so it's very difficult to pinpoint any one particular sector. But I'm sure that they would do well if they would have a more dedicated research and development team, which allows them to look at investment opportunities not just in Uganda and East Africa, but also maybe across Africa as a region.
How is NSSF Uganda doing across the region so far?
Well, from the reports that I've read, the performance looks very strong and steady. No, thank you very much for this opportunity, and I would like to thank NSSF for this annual members meeting. It's a great opportunity for employers to come together and understand the direction NSSF is taking, and to ensure that its employees do contribute to NSSF and make this fund as big as possible.
What would you tell the private sector, especially people who are just starting up their small businesses and they're not thinking about NSSF as a place to go?
No, I would strongly encourage all businesses to ensure that their employees do contribute to this fund, because it's a great way to save money for the future for individuals and have a bright future after retirement also.
Well, we posted on social media and we're asking people to send in their questions, and one of the questions that kept coming up was, why do foreign bosses, I'll use that word, not encourage or do not put it up, or do not bring up NSSF for their employees?
Well, I am not aware of this, because we, being a foreign organization also, do have a very strong policy of contributing towards NSSF for all our employees, including the expatriates who come and work in the country. So we have a policy which supports NSSF in all the ways that they would want us to support.
So you're clearly not one of them. Thank you very much, Mr. Rakesh, for taking the time to speak with us. All right, thank you. So the annual members meeting is about to start. We're expecting it will start about 9, but it's already past 9. So we're going to have another interview as we wait for that to happen. And who am I speaking to now?
You're speaking to Mr. Obita Andrew Stewart, Board of Director NSSF. I represent the workers on the board and also chair the finance committee.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very energetic. And I'm reading that Mr. Biarugaba says this was a fantastic year. So I'm assuming you project expecting a
fantastic year and good news for our workers that the interest should be very better than what they had before. Good news, because our policy is we perform well, we enjoy. We don't perform well, we also make sure that we share the losses with our members. So for this year, fantastic news.
And this is the best we've performed ever since when?
Ever since inception.
Ever since
Yes. So this was really good.
Must unpick this time.
I don't want, this is a package that I'm leaving for the minister, but it's something good. I just want you to, it's going to be so nice that you won't be able to believe it, because we decided to give it back to the members. That was our promise. We'll always give them a 10 annual increment of 2% average 10-year inflation plus 2% interest on every year's interest. We promise that, and if there is anything more within the reserves, we make sure that they do have it.
Okay.
Yes.
Translate this to an ordinary person.
Yes.
So you've been saving with Nssf for about what? 20 years?
Personally, yeah, it's coming to 20 years now. Yeah, exact, yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you've been saving with Nssf, not you,
Yeah.
somebody else.
Yeah.
And so maybe they have about 200 million shillings.
Yes, on their account.
NSSF.
Yeah.
So how does this interest rate translate to them?
Okay, this interest rate translates to them that every year, because this interest is calculated from the first day of the financial year, for example, the current financial year 2017-18, on the first day of every financial year is 1st of July. So that interest is as of 1st of July. What happened is whatever balance you had at the end of the financial year, which is 30th of June of every year, whatever is there will be multiplied by that interest. That is the only way you can get it. So we currently, we have people who have retired, and most of them, because we give that interest higher than anybody, any financial institution, members prefer to leave their money there. You talk about the interest that is given, he only picks out little, leaves the bulk of the money there, waiting for the 12 months to come in, and then that interest again plays into a very big figure. You won't get it anywhere. Last year, we gave 11.25, still low by our standards, but nobody gives us that. All provident funds you could check around, we lead the way.
Do you think Nssf needs a competitor?
For now, I think, competitor, yeah, it's good for business, but I think when it comes to savings, you must be able to save with somebody whom you know that will be able to take care of your savings. It's not just something, because we have a very poor saving culture. Out of 100% salary, we only pick 5% from you. We leave you with the 95. But that is the 5% we want to accumulate over years, so that our objective is to make sure that you have a better life after retirement. So basically, by the time you retire, we've held something good for you. Yeah, and you retire in happiness.
Are we still looking at 55 years?
We're still looking at 55 years, yes, unless we change the law. 55 years for most private companies. Yeah, government's about 60, but for us we are 55. But we have different kinds of benefits. We have invalidity, we have survivor benefit, we have different ones. So it depends on whatever time somebody comes in. As long as he has the proof, then there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to deny somebody to get the money.
I know that earlier this year, people were calling for access to that money before the 55 years. Is this something that has been looked into?
Yes, we have some positions that we've sent to Parliament, whereby we need to make sure that we call them midterm access. We normally react to the beliefs and whatever our members wish, because when we move out there, they want to access this money. We are saying, yes, you may not access the whole of it. Remember, we've only taken 5% from their salary. Now they want to pick something again out of that. So we are saying, can Parliament enact a law to allow us access a certain percentage? If that is done, then we give it to the members. We're also introducing very many products, but the law must first be, we must have the law in place so that we can be able to introduce a lot of like medical insurance. We believe we want to make sure that our member, at the end of it all, is kind of not only for savings, but also in issues of health, making sure that he has a decent accommodation. We have projects that we also, of houses that we like our members, because it will be able to allow members who may not be earning a lot to be able to have access to shelter. Yes.
So why should somebody, and this is in summary, because I know we are just about to start, why
Yes.
should somebody who is online today stay tuned and keep watching for when the event actually starts?
Yeah, because every year, you can imagine we used to declare the interest before the annual members meet. But we realized that we could create an increased anxiety when we do it on the same day. I'm telling you, from the information that I'm getting, yesterday we trended in millions. Yes, I think the hottest news now is Bobby Wine. I think we surpassed that. So it just shows you the interest of members. They know something good is coming. Richard Berogawa, the managing director, was on media before, some weeks ago, telling about the great figures we have, beautiful figures. Those who know those figures know there is some good news today.
It's going to show people are following up on their money. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much
for taking the time to
Thank
speak
you.
with us.
Nice
We'll
day.
catch up with you later.
Thank you so much. Okay, enjoy the day.
All right, and that's it from us for now. Let's head in live and find out what's happening in the hall.
On Twitter, right? What you would do if you were given 10 trillion shillings. Nssf is currently managing assets worth up to 10 trillion shillings. So if I gave you 10 trillion shillings, Chairman Kaberenge, what would you do with 10 trillion shillings? 10 trillion. That's not little money, is it? At current market value, that would probably be about what? About $2.7 billion. We put that money in your account and say, boom, bang, there you go. You've got $2.7 billion. That's your money. What would you do with it? Try and think of some exciting things. Please don't say buy a car. With that kind of money, you might be able to buy the entire car company, right? So what would you do with 10 trillion shillings? I'd like to see some of your stories. So please do share on Twitter and use the hashtag Nssf Amm18. And just simply start by saying what I would do with 10 trillion shillings, and then share your story in just 2 sentences and use that hashtag Nssf Amm18. As we're running the tweet deck on the screens behind me, you'll be able to see some of the stories popping up. So please do share some stories, and let's have some fun together as we get ready to start to see what sort of ideas people would come up with. Please note, if you say anything about buying a nuclear bomb, you'll get arrested. Yeah, we'll look for you wherever you are. So use it for useful purposes. And no, you can't buy a country either, and neither can you pay anyone to.
Okay, and we're still on live from the Pearl of Africa Hotel. And right now I have Charlotte Chibangu, who is the Human Resource Manager for Rainbow International School. Is that right? Did I get your name right? Yes. I was a little worried about saying Chibangu. All right, it's good to have you this morning. Why are you here? Why do you think this is important that you're here for the annual members meeting?
I think it's very important for us as members to be here, especially representing our organizations and coming to find out what Nssf has for us this year. I have attended a few of the annual members meetings, and they've been quite interesting. It's very important for us to know the financials, how Nssf is doing, what Nssf has invested our money in, and what assets we have as Nssf, what the interest rate will be for the last year.
I see that one particularly gets your attention.
Yes, it does, because the staff that I have at Rainbow are very interested in that. And also we are hoping to participate at some point in the Friends with Benefit program of Nssf, because we have a few of our staff who have collected their money, and we are hoping that at some point they'll be able to participate. So this meeting is very important also for us to interface with Nssf.
What's your hope for the interest rate?
My hope for the interest rate is that it will be better than last year, especially since we've already heard on the news, on TV, that Nssf has performed even better this year. So I'm hoping for a better interest rate.
So Nssf put out a poll on social media, and they said, what interest rate do you think the fund will pay to members? And they said 8 to 10%, 11 to 13%, or 14 to 16%. What do you think?
What are you hoping for? I'm hoping that it will be 14 to 16%, definitely. But then I suspect it might be around 12.5%.
So when you get this information, how do you then take it back and translate it to, because you're the human resource, how do you translate it to your staff at Rainbow International School?
So when I go back after meetings like these, I prepare minutes of what has transpired, the main points, and what I think will be of major interest to the staff at Rainbow. And I then circulate those minutes by email, and I give opportunity to whoever wants to come to me for further explanation. So we do that, and sometimes we might also invite in our customer relations manager to come and speak to us and speak to our staff.
What has been the biggest concern? Because I'm assuming you speak to the staff before you actually come. What has been their biggest concern concerning their savings with NSSF?
Their biggest concern is that they are unable to access that money until they are 55, and yet some of them feel even at 45 they could be able to they would be allowed to get a part of it and invest while they still have energy. They feel that 55 is a little bit far. They would like access to at least part of it, because at this time some of them would like to invest in houses and land for farming. So I think that's the major one, access to some of their money at least.
Right. Where would you like to see NSSF start to invest more?
I think NSSF is doing. I'm happy with what they are doing now. I'm happy with what they are doing now. Really, I wouldn't advise any other at the moment. I think they are doing well.
I'm sure we'll find out a bit more about what they're doing now and what their plans are for the next financial year. But thank you very much, Charlotte, for taking the time to speak with us. Okay. All right. And that's it from us. Oh, well, just before we take off, there's just one more person. I'm going to... two more. Okay. Who am I speaking to now? Sorry. Who am I speaking to?
Steven Segwanyi.
Okay.
Yes.
You are from?
I'm from Uganda National Roads Authority.
Uganda National Roads Authority.
Yes.
Ah, the people with the big monies.
Yes, you can say that.
You don't deny it.
Well, you can say that.
Are you excited about today?
Very excited.
Why?
Because we're looking forward to the interest rate. We invest our money, or we put our money away, and we know that it's in good hands with NSSF. So we're looking forward to hearing the big news. It's something that we look forward to every year. I was here last year when it was announced. It wasn't here, but it was at somewhere else, Serena. So looking forward to the big announcement.
What do you think is the biggest here? I know they've given us to choose between 8 to 10%, 11 to 13%, or 14 to 16%.
14 to 16.
That's what you think?
Absolutely. That's what I'm hoping for. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm probably betting that it will be. Yeah.
They said it's been a fantastic year, so
More reason to.
for that.
Mo-
Okay. How do you think they're doing with the savings, with the people's savings?
Well, I think they're doing a very good job. Was it this week? I think it was announced how well NSF did. So based on that, there's a lot more interest. The money that has been collected, the base has grown. So I think performance has been wonderful and continues to be, and that's why there's a lot of confidence and trust in NSSF. Yeah.
Do you think we as a population are as interested in what NSSF is doing with this money as we should be?
We are, but more work still needs to be done. I think people still need to be educated. There's a lot of need for financial growth, financial education, so that even those that are not in the so-called companies that are mandated to do that get to know about it and can invest even on their own. But also those who are, so that it's not just about my money is being taken, but what is it doing? How is it being invested? In what kind of things is it being put? So I think more can be done, but it's not to say that they aren't doing a good job. Yeah.
What do you think that they can do different? What do you think they can do better, especially in regard to giving people more information about how they're using the money that they're collecting?
In this day and age, obviously, the social media should be, if I'm sure it is, but it could be more. I think I personally have the app on my phone, so I follow that. but kind of just blasting and letting any and everybody know about it. Billboards is a good way. As some people will say that people don't pay attention to that, but yes, it catches your eye, and that is something else that can be done. But more programs, getting out to the upcountry, and making sure that wherever there are functions, there's a presence of Nssf, and really on an ongoing basis, not just to say Nssf is here, but this is what we're doing and this is what we're doing with the money.
All right. Thank you very much. And is there something else you'd like us to
No, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. So I know I have somebody else to speak to. Who am I speaking to now?
You're speaking to Keto Kayemba, Assistant Auditor General.
Assistant Auditor General.
Yes, please.
Great. Are you looking forward to the announcement of the interest rate today?
Definitely I am. And I'm here also to give assurance to members as to how the fund performed. Yes.
Waiting for that, we would like to know that things are doing okay, that our money is safe.
Yes, definitely the money is safe. I'm going to provide that assurance because that's what you need to know and that's what we are employed to do as Office of the Auditor General, as Auditor General. I'm looking forward to the rate, of course, because we have been discussing it. They presented it to us before with the Auditor General in the Auditor General's office a week ago, and we discussed it a bit, so we do not know what areas they have reached to because they have to themselves ensure that they understand it within the board, the minister, those decisions that they had to make. But of course, they gave us proposals as to what it's going to be, but we do not know what it exactly will be.
And you wouldn't even tell me now until they are next.
I won't tell you now, but the economy hasn't been doing well. It has been at 11 point something, so the interest rate has been at 11 point something. I don't know what it will be this time, but probably there will be a slight increase.
Fingers crossed for 14 to 16%. Fingers crossed. We are hoping.
14 to 16%. Don't you think that you're going a bit too high? Because from 11, are you going to 14?
I mean that
hasn't been doing very well.
they put it out there for us and said we can just pick one of them, and that's what we are picking because we are hopeful people.
Okay, so you're picking between 14 and?
They told us to pick between 8 to 10, 11 to 13, or 14 to 16.
Oh, okay. So you're picking 14 to 16. Fingers crossed, and that's what members would want to have since you invest your funds. All of you, I believe, actually, you not as Josephine, as NTV, but as Josephine yourself, your money is in Nssf as well.
Do you think that we are as interested in finding out about what Nssf is doing with this money as we should be?
I think you're more interested than others. We audit all government institutions, and I can see that the members of Nssf are more interested and they get to understand what Nssf does than other members. It's very important for this to go across because government uses taxpayers' money, but I think taxpayers do not understand that this is their money. So as Auditor General, we are struggling to ensure that people understand the issue of public accountability and demanding public accountability because this money is yours. When government is using 24 trillion shillings, how does it use it? It needs to tell you how they use it through the year and what benefits you receive at the end of the period.
How do you think that Nssf can enable this even more?
I think Nssf, in the choice of its investments that it makes, it can get into funds and investments that are more productive. It's doing quite well right now, and I think the decisions that management is taking is very good. We have a very good management cadre, and I think they're doing well. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. We're looking forward to your announcement today, to what you can tell us when you take it to the stage.
Yeah.
We'll be waiting to hear what that is. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and I just have another person to speak to. Well, they're quite a number. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
I'm very happy.
Why? Why shouldn't I be happy?
Why shouldn't you?
Yeah, it's a good day.
It's a good day.
Yes.
What makes it a good day?
Nssf. In short.
You must have a lot of money saved there.
Yes, I am, but I also happen to be the CFO. So I know. Yes, but I'm also a saver.
Yeah.
So I have some comfortable balance. Yes.
Why do you think this annual members meeting is important for people to attend?
Well, the most important thing is to keep the members informed about their money, about how Nssf is doing, how Nssf is investing this money. And that's key. And also, it brings them up to date. They need to know why they have to continue saving, because Nssf is about you and the future. About that time when you're not able to work, when you need this money. So, if you see it grow and growing very comfortably, then it should make you happy. I'm sure you're happy too.
I'm not yet happy until I find out what the announcement
But you should be happy based on the previous performances alone. Yes.
Well, there are questions about how NSSF is spending the money, some unfinished buildings, some unfinished, all of that. So those questions keep coming up, and of course they make us wonder.
But that's part of investment. Because a building is not like a shoe which you just buy and put on. You have to put it up. It takes time. So you know that if I put up this building, it might take time, a year or two, but once I put it up, it's going to give me a good return as a member.
If I've not yet started saving in NSSF, why should I even think about it?
Because it's the
Say I'm
only...
a university student.
Yes.
I'm just about to leave university. I'm ready to put in a job. Why is it important to me to follow all of this?
Because things like getting old in life is a certainty. It doesn't matter whether you're 16 or 17 now or 21, you know you have to get old. And the easiest way to save is to start now. Start with what you have. Because when you have 30, 45, you have other responsibilities. Just have to get into that habit of saving all the time. Because when the time comes, you'll be better off.
That's a picture to paint.
Yes.
Thank you for painting it. I'm hoping I'll speak to you later on in the day because there's some questions I'd like to ask about the projects that NSSF is doing right now.
Definitely.
Questions that have come up on social media. Thank you very much.
At your service. Thank you.
Well, that's it. Oh, and just one more person, of course, Amos Wekesa. Hi.
Hi. Good to see you again.
You're always here wearing red safaris.
Yes, I believe in my brand. It's the first thing. I'm supposed to be the first person to believe in my brand before anybody believes in it. Yeah.
Why is this meeting important to you?
Well, I have quite a number of people who actually contribute to the fund, and I'm sure they're also anticipating and waiting to see exactly what comes out. But also, it's good to have information. Information separates people, and especially useful information. Mainly if applied, information. That's what happens with it. So we're expecting that this year, as a contributing member, either at the business level or at an individual level, I am expecting better returns. But I'm also thinking, okay, I'm going to be networking today and make sure that NSSF invests in tourism, which is key. Absolutely. I think they've invested in everything else, but I don't think they've invested enough in tourism. So I'm hoping that NSSF puts more money in tourism because this year we have had the best growth ever. I think we've done better than the last 40 years as a tourism industry. And even if you went to Uganda Wildlife Authority, they will tell you that almost double their incomes this year from tourism earnings. Individuals have doubled their incomes this year because of the 3 marketing PR firms. But I am very optimistic that if these guys invested, I, as a person, as a member, will be able to get returns out of it.
My last question to you, and because I know you're very popular with the young people, is,
But,
for example, a university student just leaving school and
Yes.
thinking about NSSF is not an issue for them.
Yes.
Why should this be something they actually begin to think about?
Well, the thing is that every young person must know that we, who are like in our 40s now, we're also young. But you cannot start saving when you're older. It's important that you start saving for your life when you're a lot younger. In fact, when you have the energy to work hard, when you have the energy to contribute to a fund like this, it is important for you to think in that direction. Unfortunately for Uganda, a lot of people think about retirement in their 50s, in their 60s, and so they're shocked. When you're younger, you have a lot of space to deal with. You have a lot of time to exploit, a lot of time to fail, but a lot of time to actually put in a fund like this to be able to have a nice life when you retire. A lot of people are dying 2 years, 3 years, 5 years after retirement because of the shock that they're getting. And no one is speaking about this. So when you're young, you have an advantage now. So you take advantage of the time.
Why should they trust NSSF? And that's the final.
I think NSSF for me is an organization that reflects our interests as a people. First, it's run by Ugandans. There are very few big organizations in this country that are run by Ugandans. But because they have interests as well as individuals, you can see the quality of people that are running the institution. Yes, they may have challenges here and there, but it's an example to show to Ugandans that we can aspire to run bigger entities. We shouldn't just be thinking that anything big is for foreigners. No, this gives us an opportunity to see that a group of Ugandans have the ability, if they're committed, to actually grow and run an entity like this. And so I'm also inspired as a person. I want to run an entity that's multi-trillion in future. I'm running a multi-billion, but I want to run a multi-trillion in future. Oh yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I hope you get what you expected from this meeting.
I hope I will. Thank you so much.
Okay, and we're just about to start now, so we'll just get into the hall and we'll go live on NTV. I'm sure it's going to be having this online, live as well and online, so let's keep it there. All right.
You're all welcome. Please remain standing. We'll do our intro, we'll do our hand clap, and then we'll do the national anthem immediately after that. We're ready to go. Fenon, NTV, NBS, UBC, standing by for you.
To meet your deadlines in the office or in your business, ask yourself, are your savings guaranteed to offer you a better life? While you take a break and spend the weekend with your family, ask yourself, are your savings guaranteed to offer you a better life? While you plan your retirement, ask yourself, are your savings guaranteed to offer you a better life? Well, join us at this year's Nssf Annual Members Meeting on the 28th of August 2018 at the Pearl of Africa Hotel starting at 8 a.m. and find out how your savings will guarantee a better life for you and your family. The meeting is open to all members. All you have to do is book your seat today by registering online at www.nssfug.org. You can also follow the meeting live on NTV, NBS, UBC, Facebook and Twitter. For more information, call our toll-free line on 0800-286-773.
Nssf, a better life.
Good morning and welcome to the 6th annual Nssf Annual Members Meeting, coming to you live from the Pearl of Africa Hotel here in Kampala. As we start, we'll begin with the national anthem. You may be seated, ladies and gentlemen. A very good morning to you, to our viewers joining us now on NTV, NBS, and UBC, as well as on Facebook Live and on Twitter and on social media. Welcome to the 6th annual Nssf Annual Members Meeting 2018. My name is Ben Mwine. I am Nssf member number 40247. Yes, I know my number. Do you know yours? I'm looking at my balance right now on the Nssf Go app, and I'm proud to tell you I'm a very rich man. Or at least I think I am, based on what I know from the figures. The Nssf is a multi-trillion fund mandated by the government through the Nssf Act to ensure that we have social security for employees in the private sector. As a result of that, the mandate is very simple. Be profitable, trustworthy, efficient, secure, and use innovation to make sure that we guarantee safety, security, but above all, a competitive return on interest for members' savings. In the spirit and commitment of transparency and accountability, the Nssf has for the last 6 years been holding the annual members meeting, where we get to find out how much money our money has made. Or to be fair, how much money the fund has made for us. And today is a very big day as we get to find out what the new interest rate is going to be on your savings. Don't forget that now, even if you're not fully employed as a private citizen, as long as you've been a member of Nssf before, you can now voluntarily save with Nssf and enjoy the benefits that come with it. Now, of course, in Uganda being a very young population, you might be thinking, we must prepare for our future. As we retire, you must be ready for what happens on the other end as we grow older. And Nssf is here to guarantee that you have a better life. And no matter how much money you end up with, when you eventually pull it out, it can do some amazing things. No matter how little it might seem to you. I'd like us to start by taking a look at a very inspirational story of someone who got just a little bit of money, or so it would seem, but did some amazing things with it.
I had work from Uganda Industrial Research Institute, where I started working 2006. I was given 3 years contract. Nkanye niteekateeka ky'okukola ishomero shantakagize resete namarayo emyaka 3 batandika kumpa esete ezindi barazishara barazitamu Nssf. So kuzatandikira kuba nyingiho, I started asking my benefits. Mwebare kwija kabari amazina ganje rwakira Bonaventure nkatunga age benefits. Ejo niyo story yanje ya Nssf. First benefits bakampa $1,994 natandika gukora amatafari ndabika amagoba izindi ndazikozesa umurimo. Then they gave me a second contract. I was given another benefit. 2013 twatandika ekiteekateeko ky'okwombeka ishomero twayeta family. Nti ekitwokora ekirabaasa kuyamba ishomero eka yitu ningi. Niko twagira ngu gwe ekyaro kyaitu kitarimu amashomero mingi katutandike okwombeka ishomero tuyamba abantu. Ogwo n'omukyara wanje baramweta Jovita Gwakire. Hati nkatunga accident konka nashaba naza kuhereza muhara wanje abarambuzi.
You're welcome to Uganda Matters Nursery and Primary School. This is the school which my father started in 2014. We started with primary 1 to P4. Now it's from P1 to P7.
Ishomero atandikana n'abana 208 none habwa abazere kura mu school fees abana bagenda barakindira. Kompwa kuti turi kugezaho kwetaga abana abateye n'abazire babo yefanize kugira ngo nabo tubayambi bararebesha ishomero ry'uti bibiri abayambi. Konkati it was a day school. Now it is a day at the boarding school.
So in boarding school, we have 10 girls and 14 boys. So in total, we have 24 boarders. By the time we started in this office. So after constructing the other second building, we shifted from here and we went to the other office. So from there, he got another money and constructed this second building. This is the first building. And my dad is having a plan of putting in a vocational school.
Benefits za kabiri zikanyamba kongeraho kugura itaka. Ahubwo kuvuga itaka rikaba riri ikemwe n'eceka kunko itaka rishitamahika 3 n'eceka.
So he's having a plan of constructing here other rooms for vocational.
Ekirabo ekibampira kuga mu Nssf cyanyambire kwikiriza ekiteekateeko cyanje ikagumizamo no kwombeka ishomero. So ndebaza ekitongole kya Nssf tubikire sete yone mwe muje muri agambiraga abantu bo wanyu kubashime kubika sete mu Nssf ako kwazira bikwaje kazirija kuyamba abantu abo barabaziba mubwira ubu barazindira.
What a touching story from Bonaventure there. And to imagine all that started with a mere 2 million shillings. Imagine what you can do, how much you can dream. Can I encourage you to download the Nssf Go app and start taking a look at how much money you have and start making plans for it and what you can do for it. Otherwise, you might just get it and spend it on a car, which would not be very wise now, will it? To find out how the fund has been performing, it's now my pleasure to introduce the person who is tasked with the responsibility of making sure that our money makes money. Please welcome with me the Nssf MD, Mr. Richard Yarugaba.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I think he can do better than that. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. That's better. That's a group of people that are looking good. Since everybody is looking for bail, I thought we would try and bail out our members today. So listen to the story of Nssf this year. What an amazing year I think it has been. And I hope that we put a smile on the face of our members, because I believe that for a very long time, the Nssf has been doing pedestrian work, but today we're beginning to show the results of all the hard work that we've been putting in for a long time. So 2017, 2018 will hopefully become a milestone for everybody to remember in quite a long time. Of course, Nssf operates in an environment, and I would like to, first of all, talk about the environment. I'll talk a little bit also about some of the things that we've done to consolidate growth. And in addition to that, we'll talk about the firm's mission, the financial highlights, which is why we're here, because it's been that time of the year where the Auditor General has looked at our books, and hopefully they will give us a good, clean record. And then we'll talk a little bit about the future. And I'm hoping that that future will continue to be the reason why we all want to be at the Nssf. So let's look at the environment in which the fund operated in last year. It was calm. In fact, if you look at the numbers, the rate of growth, as you know, had initially been projected to increase to about 5%, but turned out at about 3.9% in the previous year. And we saw a big improvement during this financial year. And that was largely driven by public sector investment. All the bridges, all the roads, all the dams that the government is constructing, and all the construction that you see has helped improve the economy. There was also a big improvement in the weather. I'm sure you all know that we had a bumper harvest for both agriculture, for maize, and some of the other staples that we all eat. And we also saw an increase in the FDI, which is a lot of the money that came in, that reduced the pressure on the foreign exchange, as I will be showing you. And if you look at the banks, there was an increase in private sector growth, largely driven by the downward turn in terms of the bad loans that had characterized the sector during the previous years. Of course, notwithstanding the perfect resolution or the normalization of the banking sector given the resolution of the Crane Bank situation. So we saw that contributing to the economy growing modestly at about 5.8%. The other part of the economy was the inflation. Again, we saw inflation coming down from 6.4% to about 2.2% on the headline line. And that was largely driven by the fall in core inflation. And that was, again, driven by the fall in food prices, or the bump-up crop, which meant that there was food. And because inflation has a big basket of food, and therefore we saw inflation rates come down. The other area that we paid attention to were the interest rates. Interest rates, of course, are a big factor for us because they are one of the determinants of our biggest return. You'll see that most of our assets are in fixed income assets, and therefore interest rates for us is a big deal. So at the start, there was a downward movement, largely driven by the central bank bringing down the CBR rate. We reached a low point towards the end of June 2018, and that has meant that at the end of the period, we reached about 17.7%. That is the lending rate in terms of averages. However, this deterioration or this drop in the interest rates was also driven up by the depreciation. You'll recall that we saw some depreciation, which I'll be talking a little bit about, and as a result of that, it saw a little bit of push-up on the interest rates, but towards the end of the period rather than in the middle or towards the end of the period. The other comment I'd like to make is on the regional markets. 40% of our assets today are invested out of Uganda. So that means that the interest rate regimes in the rest of East Africa has a big bearing on Uganda and on our portfolio. So we also saw that the interest rates in the region have declined, largely because the central banks there are trying to expand their monetary policies, and therefore bringing down interest rates. You had the interest rate cap in Kenya, you had the expansion of the economy within Tanzania, and we've seen interest rates coming down because the governments are looking for opportunities in which to borrow from the public so that they can invest in the infrastructure, which is a big thing for the region. And as a result of that, you will notice that our fixed income portfolio suffered in terms of return, which is why you'll notice that some of the strategies we've been putting in place is try and diversify out of the fixed income asset class. The next area I'd like to sort of briefly touch on is on the currency. I think the currency of Uganda's story is very well told. We depreciated quite a bit. It ended up at about 8%. At about 8% depreciation. And that's the bad news. The good news is that actually we made a little bit more money, as you'll see later. Because we hold our balances in foreign currency, if our currency depreciates, we are holding more Uganda shillings. I'm sure you sort of get the drift. As they say, there's always a silver lining with every problem. The stock exchange did very well. In the case of Uganda, the stock exchange improved by about 13%, Kenya about 14%, and there were modest growths in Tanzania and in Rwanda. And this largely helped us in our portfolio on the equities side. So, a modest rebound of the economy meant that we were able to perform quite decently. So let's talk a little bit about our performance. And the first thing I'd like to talk about our performance is the contributions. You'll notice that our contributions grew quite well. We continue to use the relationship management model. And thank you. So there were two ways of looking at it. The first is with the employers. The employers, we continue to engage them, especially on the relationship management, doing road shows and connecting with the customers, especially those who are with the big companies. The second area was on the employees. It was rather a passive management, and we did SMS alerts. Today, if you are registered with us, it is most probable that you will get an SMS alert telling you about what's happening at Nssf. The other area that we have done a lot of development on is on the Nssf Go app. Our Nssf Go app has become very interactive. Today, you can estimate the amount of money you'll have on your account as soon as you start contributing. And you can play with scenarios on interest. You can play on scenarios if you get a pay rise, what you'll be able to save, and therefore plan for when your money matures. We also use the whistleblower, basically driving the companies that were not complying to make sure that if they are not complying, we then are told about it, and then we come in and do an audit. But the biggest growth area has been the voluntary contributions. Our voluntary contributions continue to grow very significantly, and it's all coming out of financial literacy. We are telling people, the generation that we are living in, it will not be possible for us to rely on our children. We will have to rely on the savings we've made. So please put money aside, because when you're old, you're going to be out on your own, and the only form of relief will come out of your savings, and that is working magic. So it has empowered people to save for their future. Of course, we've continued to run the compliance side. If you look at the numbers, we did collect 4 billion shillings out of compliance, and that was largely because of the cases that had already gone to West. In other words, we were not able to collect them. We've taken them to court, and they've been able to come up with the repayment plans, and we've been able to have a good return on contributions. So, what do the numbers look like in terms of collections? For the very first time, we have been able to beat the ceiling of 1 trillion shillings. And I'm expecting a hand clap. It's a new record for us at the fund, and we're pretty excited about this development. What did we do with the money? We invested it. And we invested it using our strategic asset allocation. Just pay a little bit of detail to the graph. So at the beginning of the year, we started off at 77% allocation to fixed income. We had 7% allocation to real estate, and 16% to equities. Our strategic asset allocation, in other words, our optimum position, would be 70 on fixed income, 25 on equities, 5 on real estate, giving us a total of 100%. So what did we do this year? You'll notice that there was improvement on the fixed income. Improvement because we moved from 77 to 75. And let me explain why that's an improvement. I mentioned to you that interest rates have been coming down. So if we've got a big portfolio exposed to interest rates, that means that we need to find a way of earning a little bit more money, and that more money is earned out of equities. And you'll notice that the 2 percentage points that we shed out of fixed income, we actually improved on our equity portfolio. So the equity portfolio went up to 18%, and as a result of that, our returns have improved as a result. We stayed flat on the real estate, just a couple of percentage points, actually, a couple of basis points below the level we were at last year. And as a result of that, you'll notice that we also have broken the 1 trillion mark in terms of revenues. And I wanted to do a little bit of research. I can now confirm that the Nssf, I'll say this very slowly, the Nssf is the largest company in terms of turnover and asset size as at today. Turnover with regard to revenue in the whole of this country. So it's one milestone we are really proud to. In fact, the actual amount was 1.6 trillion shillings that we're able to earn. We also kept our costs down. Our costs and benefits that we paid out meant that if you look at our assets, our asset base reached almost 10 trillion shillings, 9.98 trillion shillings, just short of the 10 trillion mark. And our outlook is that by the year 2025, we believe that we are on target to now achieve the 20 trillion mark. Just on top of that graph, you'll see the movement in the amounts that we have been experiencing year on year. When we set up the strategic asset target of 20 trillion by the year 2025, we required a growth rate of 1.4 trillion shillings per year. And you recall that, and you'll see that in the first year, we were only able to achieve 1.1 trillion. In the second year, short of 1.1 trillion. And in the third year, we achieved 1.3 trillion growth, but this year, the growth has gotten to 1.9, almost 2 trillion shillings. So you can imagine, in terms of growth trajectory, we are now seeing the target of 20 trillion in 2025 right in sight. A couple of other numbers, especially on our efficiency, especially relating to our operating costs. In the year 2015-16, we were generating 8.5 shillings in income using the costs. That number went up to 9.5 in the following year. And this year we've had a really, really good year. And it's gone up to 14 shillings that we are generating for every amount of income. Sorry, 14 shillings that we are spending for every income that we generate, which means that our efficiencies are going up. And if you look at the graph that's at the bottom of the screen, you'll notice that that is the cost graph, which has remained flat, and the revenue graph has continued to go up. So our operating costs have remained very flat, and our operating income continues to really go up. So I would like to say well done, but we shouldn't forget that our members have defined what our purpose is. And they've told us two things. The first thing is that we have to pay them their benefits on time. It used to take a very long time to get your benefits when you qualified. We must do it on time. Number two, we must give them a good return because they keep their money for us a long time, and we have got to give them a return which gives them a real rate of return, which means that they've got to do a little bit better than the rate of inflation. So how have we performed on those measures? The first one is benefits. We continue to improve our efficiencies. If you look at our growth rates on benefits, 29% year-on-year growth. But if you look at, on average, that has been increasing by 22%. The other measure is obviously the interest rate. We have said that our hurdle rate will be 2 percentage points above 10-year moving average inflation. Okay? That is the benchmark which we were given in order to protect our members. In other words, we're giving a real return based on the rate of inflation drawn over a 10-year period because we are a long-term investor. Again, on this race, we are clearly ahead of the pack. A little bit of graphs for you. So the first graph is the rate of inflation averaged over 10 years. The next line is the minimum required return. So that's 2 percentage points above inflation. And the green line is the rate of return we've been paying to our members. So the previous year we paid 11.5, we paid 13%, it went down to 12.3, and last year it went down to 11.23%. And you'll notice conspicuously that number doesn't exist because I don't have the authority to say it. So I'm hoping that when the minister is given an opportunity to mention it, he will be able to give a good number. And he can, because guess what? There is sufficient room for us to be able to do it if you've been following with the numbers. So, stay tuned. I would not be doing any service, just giving you how the numbers look like. So let's look at the numbers. For those of you who are accountants, just pay a little bit of attention. Our income has grown by 77%. Clap. And our costs have only increased by 20%. So that means that we have a huge surplus. In fact, a surplus of 1.4 trillion shillings to share with our members. The main movements, as you can see, is around interest income. Our interest income grew from 781 billion shillings to 978 billion shillings. And that is not largely because of the interest rates going up, as I mentioned, but it's because of volume. So we collected a lot more money and were able to invest it and therefore get a good return from the previous year. The second other area of growth was on the fair value and the appreciation of the currency. And you'll notice that that grew from 21, 27 to 145 to 387, okay? That, again, is because of the good performance of the stock exchange and also the good performance of the currency. Obviously, depreciating currency means that we have more assets available to us in terms of revenue. The other growth, obviously, was on expenditure, and that was largely because of salary. We had salary raises for staff, and then we are also paying a huge levy to the Uganda Benefits Regulatory Authority, which is our regulator. The law currently says that we've got to pay a percentage of our assets to the regulator in order to help them in managing their operations. So as the asset grows, you'll see that the number is continuing to grow on our expenses side. But all in all, you can see that the surplus grew from 816 billion to 1.4 trillion shillings, which is quite a good jump. On the balance sheet side, or what you call statement of financial position, again, you notice that the big growth, the key movements were on the equities held for trading, grew from 88 billion to 112 billion. Investments in securities grew from 5.7 trillion to 5.7 trillion to 7.3 trillion. Equities held at fair value through the profit and loss grew from 890 billion, 99 billion to 1.3 trillion. There were also growths in investment properties from 188 to 464, and that's really as a result of the projects that we are running. You know that we are running the project of Lubowa, where we've started to break ground, and we've started construction. We are almost finishing Buya. We are in the process of starting pension towers as well. So all those big projects that had been on hold for a very long time have now started becoming investment products. That's why we have reclassified them, and they are now beginning to earn us money once we've finished the construction period. On the liabilities, the biggest movement has really been around the reserves and the accumulated balances for our members. And our member balance has grown from 7.6 trillion shillings to 9.4 trillion shillings. And the accumulated balance, including the reserve accounts, have also grown quite considerably from about 260 billion to 27 billion shillings, trying to add the numbers. So again, very good growth, showing that and demonstrating that we now have sufficient reserve for our members should future periods be lean. So we hope this performance will put a smile on your face. That's where I started. But it didn't happen by accident. So let's talk a little bit about our journey. Our journey began in 2015. That's when we agreed the 10-year strategic plan. And that strategic year plan was to have 4 deliverables. Deliverable number 1 was that we needed customers engaged, happy at 95%. Target number 2 was to make sure that we could process our benefits within 1 day. Target number 3 was to make sure that we had a fund that was worth 20 trillion. And target number 4 was to make sure that our staff were engaged to the tune of 95%. So those were the ingredients. That's our vision. That's the one that's been driving us. How do we achieve these targets? So how are we faring so far? So if you start off with our customers, we are at 78%. Our target this year was at 91%. And you might think that that's a low number. Actually, what's happened is we've reclassified it and included in more variables. We used to use an indicator which only included the data we were using internally. We've now started using external data, and we've started using data that's also done by a third party in order to bring in independence. And that has brought some home truths to us. And therefore, this year we ended at an index which shows that the customers are happy to 78%. Our target is to get them to 95% by the year 2025. The second variable is the number of days it takes to process our benefits. Today, it takes us about 8 days. We had targeted to be on 7 days. You recall, we want to be on 1 day by the year 2025. So again, we missed our target slightly by a day, and we're working towards that. However, on an average basis, that figure is 8. However, on the end of year period, it is 7 days. So we actually achieved the 7, but on an average, because we had some high days in the year, it came out at an average of 8. Of course, the balance sheet. The balance sheet, we exceeded our target. We had thought would be at around 9.1 trillion, but we've ended up at 9.9 or almost 10 trillion shillings. So again there, we've exceeded at 110%. And then finally on the people, we've come out at 86% against a target of 75%. So we've again exceeded on that at 115%. So a little bit of mixed bags on the number of days and on the customer side, but if you look at the balance sheet size and on our people side, we've actually exceeded targets for this particular year. So the journey has begun. The journey looks very good, and the journey is that we will continue to provide our members with a better life. So, I'd like to pay tribute to those guys, some of those guys that are in the picture. That's our staff. Our staff have absolutely been great. So thank you so much. I know that there are lots of them here. We couldn't have done it without you. So thank you so much. And I'd like everybody to really, if there's anybody next to you that's a member of staff, thank them for us. They've done a great job. Of course, the board chairman and his team have been great in terms of providing guidance. I will not forget them, but the chairman will have his moment to come and talk about that. So well done to all of you. And thank you.
Let's give another very big hand clap to Richard Byarugaba. 4 big numbers. I know he's gone through a lot of numbers, but 4 big numbers for you to take note of. The first one is that more than 1 trillion shillings in contributions from members. That deserves a big hand clap. That's a big number. It essentially means that we have money. The second big number is 1.6 trillion shillings, which is how much money the fund has made in income. That's another big number. The other number, of course, to take note of is the 10 trillion shillings in terms of assets that the fund is managing right now. And the fourth big number is the interest rate for this year, which is going to be, well, I don't know, because that's why we're here to find out. But based on what we have had so far, I think it's only fair to assume that we should be having a decent number today. So a big, big hand clap to Nssf and the amazing job that they have done so far. For those of you joining us on TV, on NBS, NTV, and UBC, those of us here at the Palo Africa Hotel have been playing a game since morning. And we're trying to imagine what you would do with 10 trillion shillings if it was given to you as an individual. So do join us in that game, and of course, ask any questions you might have. We'll be doing a Q&A session later where we'll get to answer any questions that you might have. The hashtag is Nssf Amm 18. That is hashtag Nssf Amm 18. And while you're there, do tell us, what would you do with 10 trillion shillings as an individual? Would like to know. Now, to make sense of all the numbers that we've been hearing, of course, we need a qualified report, someone who can come and verify the things that we have heard are true. And that job is the duty of the Auditor General. And right now, we're going to hear from the Assistant Auditor General to come and present their report in terms of how the fund has performed. So please welcome with me the Assistant Auditor General, Mrs. Keto Nyapendi Kayemba, as she comes.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Wow, the room is full. I didn't know NSSF was so. The Minister, the Honorable Minister, the Board Chair, the MD, board members, staff, members of NSSF, ladies and gentlemen, I greet you all. I am NSSF number 032525. And I'm a very rich woman as I stand here. Very, very rich. When I look at my accounts, I'm extremely excited. But I'm here today to represent the Auditor General. Mr. Auditor General, Mr. John Mwanga is on leave, and he's with us here. He's also an NSSF member. He didn't give me his number, but he's with us in spirit. I'm here to present this report after those great numbers that you saw from the MD. MD, thank you so much with your team for those great numbers, the 10 trillion and the 2 trillion and the 5 trillion. I don't know how many trillions. We are just going to start talking about trillions. So let me read. This report is extremely important, as you all know, because it's the one that gives you assurances such that you are comfortable as you sit in your seats as to what they did with your money. The report of the Auditor General on the financials of NSSF for the year ended 30th June 2018. The Right Honourable Speaker of Parliament. Opinion. I have audited the financial statements of National Social Security Fund, which comprise of the statements of net assets available for benefits as at 30th June 2018, and the statements of changes in net assets available for benefits, statement of changes in members' funds and reserves, and statement of cash flows for the year then ended, and notes to the financial statements, including a summary of significant accounting policies as set on pages 13 to 111. I hope they can access these accounts on the web page. I hope they can. According to the National Audit Act, I may contract professional audit firms to assist in execution of my functions. I have contracted Ernst & Young to carry out this audit on my behalf. I carried out the necessary internal supervisory procedures to enable me to own the audit that was carried out. In my opinion, the financial statements fairly, in all material respects, represents the financial position of the fund as at 30th June 2018. And of its financial performance and its cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with international financial reporting standards and in the manner required by the Uganda Retirement Benefits Regulatory Authority and the NSSF Act. The basis of my opinion. I conducted my audit in accordance with the international standards of auditing. My responsibilities under those standards are further described in the auditor's responsibilities for the audit of the financial statement section of my report. I'm independent of the fund in accordance with the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda 1995 as amended, the National Audit Act 2008, the International Ethics Standards Board for Accountants Code of Ethics for Professional Accountants Part A and B, and other independence requirements applicable to performing audits of financial statements in Uganda. I have fulfilled my other ethical responsibilities in accordance with the IESBA Code and in accordance with other ethical requirements applicable to performing audits in Uganda. I believe that the audit evidence I have obtained is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for my opinion. Emphasis of matter. These are things that we want you to understand better. Without qualifying my opinion, meaning my opinion is clean. The Auditor General, I've already read his opinion. The opinion is clean. Can we clap for that? It is an unmodified opinion. It's an unqualified opinion. It is a clean opinion. Therefore, the figures that were presented to you by the MD, we are okay with those figures, and they represent a true reflection of what happened in the entity for the year 30th June, ending 30th June 2018. Now, without qualifying that opinion, I draw your attention to notes 31, 32, and 35B to the financial statements. Bullet 1, unallocated members' funds. Notes 31 and 32 to the financial statements show unallocated member funds of 40.85 billion shillings, a reduction from 48.4 billion. These are contributions received from employers which had not yet been allocated to the members' individual accounts because of incomplete members' records and errors in the members' records. Bullet number 2, URA tax matter. Note 35B of the financial statements indicates that the fund is challenging the basis on which the URA disallowed certain expenses. The directors have not recognized any provision for the liability of 42.2 billion to the URA, as management believes the tax treatment adopted by NSSF is in accordance with the provisions of Section 221A and Section 25 of the Income Tax Act. The note gives details of the case and explains that the directors have disclosed the matter as a contingent liability, as the ultimate outcome of the case cannot presently be determined. So we just bring your attention to those two elements, but there is not much in relation. It does not impair the opinion that the Auditor General has on the financial statements. Key audit matters. According to Standard 1800, ISA 700, the auditor is supposed to look at issues that are of significance and carry out certain procedures on them. Based on that, this financial year, we had 2 key audit matters. Key audit matters are those matters that, in my professional judgment, were of more significance in my audit of the financial statements of the current period. These matters were addressed in the context of my audit of the financial statements as a whole and informing my opinion thereon, and I do not provide a separate opinion on these statements. The first one, litigation and other claims. The fund has legal matters as disclosed in Note 35C to the financial statements. I focused on this because some of the legal matters relating to claims over the fund's investment property are the subject of media coverage and are of interest to the fund's members. Assessing the liabilities and contingencies that could arise from legal matters involves judgment. I also considered the risk that the disclosures in Note 35C to the financials, which are significant to the understanding of the fund's financial exposure to litigation, may not be complete. I had to understand the fund's processes for recording and assessing litigation procedures and contingent liabilities. I evaluated the completeness and reasonableness of the amounts recognized as litigation liabilities and contingent liabilities, including the assessment of the legal reports by the fund's internal and external auditors. I obtained direct confirmations from the firm's external lawyers and compared the confirmed positions with the fund's management assessment of the likely outcome of the legal matters. Furthermore, I obtained written representation from the fund's directors regarding completeness of the legal matters. I also assessed the adequacy of the fund's disclosures in relation to litigation based on the procedures performed. I had no significant issues in the litigation and other claims against the fund. The second key audit matter was accounting for investment in associates. As at 30th June 2018, the carrying amount of investments in associates was $300 billion. As disclosed in Note 21 to the financial statements, investments in associates are carried at cost and adjusted for post-acquisition changes in the fund's share of net assets of the associates, less any impairment in value. The financial reporting periods for the associates is 31st December, thus necessitating the fund to use half-year unaudited financial reports for the purpose of determining the fund's share of post-acquisition changes in net assets of the associates. Valuation of investments in associates was considered a key audit matter due to the significance of the fund's interest in associates and the judgments involved in the impairment assessment of the investments. I also considered a risk that the disclosures in Note 21 to the financial statements, which are significant to the understanding of the fund's investments in associates, may not be complete. My audit procedures included understanding the fund's processes for recording the fund's share of post-acquisition changes in net assets of the associates and other changes in the carrying amount of the investments. In addition, I had to understand the fund's processing for assessing impairment of investments in associates. I assessed whether the computation of the fund's share of post-acquisition changes in net assets of the investments of the associates was in accordance with the fund's shareholding and associates' financial statements. I ascertained whether the fund's disclosure in respect to investments in associates were adequate. Based on the procedures I performed, I noted no significant issues in relation to accounting for investments in associates and the relevant disclosures.